lot of things about how to live life out. And so we're looking at the book of, well, right now we're in 1 John. We'll get to 2nd and 3rd John. But we've been working through, hitting some verses. And this week we're going to talk about it. It's kind of funny because we talked about love one another, right? We talk about love God, love people. Today we're going to talk about a kind of love that God hates. Oh, even got a couple people to go, what? No, 1 John chapter 2, we're going to jump right in. 1 John chapter 2, starting verse 15 says, do not love this world. See where we're at with that? Know the things it offers you, for when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. So do not love the world. Now, that doesn't mean the actual, like the globe. You're like, oh, I love God. I need to go pollute and throw stuff out, out the window and litter on the way home from church and, just set fires and do global warming. Not that kind of thing. In Genesis, it said God created the world. He said it was good, and we're supposed to be good stewards of it. And this week was the beautiful time, if you didn't know, last weekend was too, the wonderful time of year where we all go to sit in the woods and pray that something furry will come our way, for those of you who do shotgun season. And some of you don't know what that means. Hey, more for us. But, I love being outside. I love enjoying nature. I love enjoying the world. I love hiking. I love kayaking. I love that kind of stuff. And Jesus said, God so loved the world, that, remember? Oh, you even know the rest of it. That's good. I've said it enough. We're getting there. So God so loved the world that he gave his son. And so, even though the world is full of people who often reject God and his plan for life, there's still this love of God. So it's not that, but what I think what it clears it up a little bit, verse 16 says, for the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from the world. And this world is fading away along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. Now, some of you remember, I like different Bible translations, and it's like, I'm always kind of, because you can misunderstand passages sometimes, and I'm always looking at different translations going, what's helpful here? And actually, if you look at the 1984 version of the NIV, that shows you how specific I get. It talks about the cravings of sinful man. And the truth is, we often crave things that aren't good for us, right? Like, anyone ever, maybe an excess of what you should have? Bacon. A little is good. Only me. I assure you, I am not the only bacon lover here. But you like a little bacon, and it's good. I remember as a kid, we always got like 2 strips. Like when you grow up, you get 2. I don't know why we decided 2 is the number of strips you get with meals, but it's all we had as a kid. I remember I'd never seen a breakfast buffet before. We were traveling, and there was this restaurant called Shoney's. I don't know if they still have them. A lot of energy here when people are excited about this. I'd never seen a bacon buffet, and they started setting up lunch. We were finishing up breakfast, and so I filled an entire plate with bacon. And I could not eat it, and my grandmother was very stern and made me eat it, and the whole family had to eat it. And then I rode in the back of the station wagon the whole way home, so it was not good. So, a little bacon is good. Giant plate of bacon, probably not so good. And probably it's not so good for the arteries long term, right? Some of you are like, you probably shouldn't eat any. A buffet, though, it's like, Chinese food is good. You go to the Chinese food buffet, maybe not so good. Coffee. It's funny, you travel in other countries and the cups are like this big versus like the, I don't even know how big some of our cups are. I've got this one that's like so big it doesn't fit in any cup holder. A steak, 8 ounces is probably fine, but we'd like the 80 ounce, And some of you are asking, where did you get that 80-ounce steak? Because I want that right now. But, it's natural that sometimes we want too much. Our flesh wants a little, then we kind of take it and we want a lot. Lust of the eyes. A lot of times when we see, there's greed and desire for things that when we see it. And so, bacon. It's hard to die while you're sitting above it. Advertisements. I think it's amazing. One, it's amazing now today because you think of something, and then like Facebook and Google are advertising. You're like, certainly they're listening to my thoughts now because we had a private conversation in another state while walking, and we were talking about a particular gift. Like, that would be kind of something my mom might want for Christmas. And then it was advertised to Bob later that day. And I'm like, that is creepy. But like a lot of times advertising, we don't even know we need something, right? But then you see the advertisement. And now you're sure you need it, right? Like how can I live without this? And this weekend, this week, Thursday, we're going to be thankful, right? Because it's Thanksgiving. We're going to be thankful for all the many blessings God has given us, right? And then, Thursday night or Friday, we're going to go out and kill people over TVs because we want more. It's hard. And pride and possessions. We tend to, we get prideful about what we have, right? And it's interesting because there's Instagram. I'm on there, it's okay. But honestly, we sort of curate this life of all these beautiful things, and you can go on some people's Instagram account and you just like, man, I want their life. And then you meet them in real life and it's not at all like their Instagram account because that's their fake life. And we get prideful about stuff. It's interesting. Sometimes I work for my brother, and sometimes it means I'm driving a farm truck, which, usually the locks don't work. I have to like pry the hood open with a crowbar when I have to jump it. It's got a few problems with it. It's a man kind of truck. It's like I feel more manly every time I'm in this truck. And it's interesting because you go somewhere in that truck and you get a certain reaction from people. Like all my blue collar friends are like, yeah, peace. Then I'm driving the Lexus that I sometimes have to drive, not mine, and you get treated a whole different way, right? Because there's a certain pride, and you feel a little different. And it's always interesting for me if I dress like I normally dress, which is jeans and a t-shirt is dressed up for me. People treat you a certain way, and then every once in a while, one of you will die, and I'll wear a suit. No, weddings and funerals, I dress up. But when people see me, they treat me differently, right? Because it's a way. And some of you who work in suits, you know what I mean, because you get treated differently when you're in a suit. Some people don't like you because you're in a suit. That's a whole other thing. But people, there could be this pride in what we have, whether it's a suit or like a really expensive shirt, which I wouldn't even know what they buy now. Like I told you last week, I was like concerned I had new pants, and I was like trying to making sure I didn't try to like look like I was 20-something. And I told my son, these aren't too cool, are they? And he's like, no, don't worry, Dad, those are not cool. I'm still dealing with that. But we need stuff, right? Like it's hard to live in America without a car. Which reminds me, we have somebody who needs a ride on church on Sunday, so we'll call your attention to that. But it's hard to live here without a car. It would be, we need clothing. It's getting cold. We're very aware of the fact that, we need warm coats and things, which we are collecting for the homeless out here. In case you're wondering why there's piles of coats and boxes of food in our lobby. It's not that we're just hoarding there. There is a purpose. We're collecting stuff, so excuse us with that. But, we need stuff. But here's the thing. You wouldn't, let's say you were investing money. Would you invest in a company that you knew that was about to go under? No. Why not? That's a bad investment. If you said yes, you probably don't have any money because you've been investing it in the wrong places. No, we invest in companies that we think are going to do something, right? We think they're going to this is going to increase in value. I'm going to make some, change. I'll never have to work again. Good luck. But Matthew 6:18 says this, don't store up for treasures on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. And we talked about this recently when we went through the Sermon on the Mount, like moths and rust. Most of us, do you have a grandmother that put out mothballs? I can still smell paradichlorobenzene just when I say mothball. That's what's in there. But, it's got that disgusting smell. But most of us don't have, except in cartoons, we don't have moth problems. That's a whole other, but it's like, moths eat clothes. I think there's a Seinfeld episode. Anyway, but, there's rust, deterioration. A lot of the things that we have decay. Right? Like something's good, it's awesome, and then it doesn't work. Like, if you buy a brand new car, that's great, I don't mind. It's not a sin to buy a car. But, when you first buy it, it's like you don't want anything to touch it, right? Like, you're like, I just want to build a bubble around my car and have no one get anywhere near it. And, the first thing I do is I scratch a new car. Yours. No, I'm kidding. No, I scratch my own because I'm like, someone's going to give it the first scratch and now I can just relax. But most of it we care for it, but eventually that car becomes, and some of you remember my old Civic that was falling apart and had too many deer stuffed in the trunk. When I first got it, I was like, oh, this is such a nice car. By the end, I was like, will it get me to church today? Because things deteriorate. Things fall apart. How many of us have cleaned out an attic or garage, and you're like, I had to have this. It was life-changing. It was advertised to me. And now you're like, I'll take a nickel for it at the yard sale. Not a nickel, 2.5 cents. But it's hard because we live sort of in this age of materialism, and it's so easy to get wrapped up in stuff. I think especially as Americans, because we have so much stuff available to us. It's like you go shopping in the store. There's like 1,000 different kinds of soap. Sometimes you're in another country. Sometimes you're like, which soap do I want? The soap or not soap? I'll take the soap. And it's depending on where you are, you can get more. But thieves break in and steal because if you have stuff too, you kind of get concerned about it, right? You don't want people to steal your stuff. All cars come with what? Locks, right? Because we want to lock our car. Most of us have our house. Do you have a lock? Yeah, because, we have to protect it. People are going to take it. And Jesus says that wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. The truth is, that's reality. We where our treasure is, there our desires are too. We love our stuff. Now, I think for younger generations, it's interesting because some of what they want now, and there's an interesting dynamic going on with different generations and what they value and what they have. But I think younger generations especially, they desire pictures of stuff. Like they want experiences and things. But it's that, where your treasure is, where your Instagram photos are, where your Snapchat pictures are, is your heart. Jesus says in Matthew 13:44, he says this, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy a field. Now, I've told you, I had this dream for Deepwater that when we were first starting out, I wanted to fund it in like an unusual way, because then you get to go to have this really cool story about how the church started. And so I would take my metal detector and try to find pirate treasure down at the beach. It didn't happen. But it's funny. Whenever you're with a metal detector and someone's like, "Did you find anything?" I'm like, "Just a couple of gold doubloons." I carry gold coins. I'm kidding. Just mess with people, get them all out there. But it'd be cool, because if I found buried treasure, let's say I found buried treasure, and it was on a lot that was for sale, and the lot cost, $200,000, but I found millions of dollars of treasure. What would I do? People are like, "Oh, that's a quandary. Do I tell the person? No, but I mean, if you had it and you knew there was something valuable, you'd like scrape together, you'd sell your house. Everyone thinks you're nuts because you're trying to buy this vacant lot down at the beach. They're like, you're not even going to have money to build a house there. But if you bought it, took a couple of shovelfuls of dirt or sand, and had like a pirate treasure, that's worth it, right? And that's what Jesus is saying in the kingdom of God is. It's something so valuable that it's worth everything. And the truth is, and John's writing to believers in the church, and he's saying, hey, look, the world creeps in. And most of us don't go, oh, I'm going to value all these things other than God, right? Like you don't like in the morning go, oh, what am I going to do today? I'm going to get up, I'm going to make coffee, I'm going to not value God and choose the things of the world. But, it sneaks in. And if we're not careful, it sort of kind of works its way into our life. Now, I was an athlete when I was younger. I don't like to say I am an athlete anymore. People I'm like, no, I'm an old broken athlete. I still compete in some stuff. I still, lift heavy things really fast, and then I also try to bike. So I'm trying to live out both sides of that. But when you're young, or at least when I was young, I would do anything to succeed, right? Like for just the hope of maybe winning a match. It was amazing what for wrestling, what you'd put yourself through. I remember, carrying guys. I saw this video on Kurt Angle and all that he did, and I was laughing because I'm like, yep, I remember doing some of that in college. And we'd put guys on our shoulders, and I was a heavyweight, and I'd have to put a 300-pound man on my shoulder and run up hills and stuff like that. And you do all this crazy, because I know some of you are like, that's weird. No, that's just working out. Because I wanted to win, and I was willing to do what it took to win the match. Didn't always win. But here's the thing, there's a guarantee that when we put our effort and trust and hopes in Christ, that we're going to win the match. We're going to have this, but it's still, we don't just have a hope of a reward like, oh, maybe it'll happen. We have the true life in Jesus, but often we trade that for all this other stuff that comes along in life and sidetracks us. And that's why John's writing the church. Now, it's interesting. I'm working through parts of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible right now, and every time I read it, and I still remember reading it for the first time, because I started reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. If you've never read the Bible, that's probably not the best way to do it, but I didn't have anyone to tell me how to read the Bible, so I thought, oh, people say read the Bible, right? Anyone ever hear Jeff say that occasionally? So I started in Genesis and I read through Revelation. It was it was difficult. It was a long haul. Some of you are like, yeah, I know. I got sidetracked in Leviticus. I feel you. But it's like I'm reading through now. I'm reading through. Not long ago, I read this again. I remember, Moses is going up to get the 10 Commandments and everything, right? He comes down, and the people have thrown all their gold together, and they made a carved idol, and this is the God who just delivered them from Egypt, and they're like, oh, we better go make one. And then Aaron, his brother's lying. He's like, oh, the people, we threw the gold in, it just kind of came out of fire. That's believable. Come on. But it's this, and you laugh because you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that people fall for that, right? I can't believe they get caught up in that. But we so often do. We often, it's easy to condemn others for failing the Bible, but it's easy to kind of to us. And how many people, how many Christians or even Christian leaders we see, they condemn things and then they do it in private. Porn. You ever see a Christian leader and they find porn? Yeah. Adultery. Once or twice, Christian leaders have fallen for that, if we're honest, right? Not me, for the record, faithful to my wife. Materialism. You may not get kicked out of your church for that, but we get greedy, right? And hallelujah, amen, pass that plate around again. But you see, all these things, it's easy. And to fall into it, and that's what John's reminder is, hey, be vigilant about this. It's not that you can't enjoy stuff. It's not that you can't, have a nice bike to ride. It's not that you can't, have heavy weights to lift. But it's not that we can't drive a nice car, but we have to watch. At some point, we always have to ask the question, do I have stuff or does stuff have me? John says this in the Gospel of John in verse 17. This is Jesus, and he says, it's Jesus' prayer. He says, now I'm coming to you. I told you many things while I was with them in this world so that they would be filled with my joy. I have given them your word, and the world hates them because they do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world. I'm not, this is the good part. I have to get you there. I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. They do not belong to this world any more than I do. Make them holy by your truth. Teach them your word, which is truth. Just as you sent me into the world, I am sending them into the world. He's not asking you to take them out of the world. We're supposed to be ambassadors to the world. We're not astronauts. We're not being taken out. We're ambassadors to the world, and we're called to then go and be Jesus to people. Now again, you know what I mean by that? Like our actions, we should become Christ-like. That's the purpose of disciples, to become more like Jesus. And when we do that, we show people who Jesus is. It says, make them holy by your truth, teach them your word, which is truth. That's why we study the scriptures. That's why we go through the Bible. That's why we're going to... Sometimes we have series that aren't completely like just expositionals, which we call this when we go through scripture, but that's why we teach the scripture, because I may have a lot of ideas about God, but some of them are kind of Fruit Loopy, right? like I'd rather the ones that are actually from the Bible. And that's why we teach it. It says, just as you sent me into the world, I am sending them into the world. And, we're on a mission. And remember, when you were a kid, I don't know why they always did this, but they always had the secret agent would get the mission, and then it would self-destruct. Or maybe that was like Inspector Gadget that I'm thinking. I don't know. Some of you are like, yes, go Gadget, legs. Something else goes. But I love that show. It's probably terrible. I'll watch it again. It was one of the best things. The reason you have kids is so you can do stuff you like doing as a kid and not be weird. I'm watching Inspector Gadget. I don't know if the kids were. I remember I watched it again. I got Legos for the kids to play with. Finally, make the Millennium Falcon. No, I don't have that one. Some of you want it though. But it's kind of you get this the idea that you get this messages self-destructs. Here's the thing: our mission isn't hidden. It's not a self-destructing one that people can't know. We're not secret agents. We're agents. We're supposed to be living this whole thing out. A dude I follow on Twitter said, which you wouldn't know his name, so being not in the world isn't the destination in these verses, but the starting place. We're supposed to be sent out into the world. Now, I wouldn't be the first John to say, I think I've every week mentioned Kanye. So why make this any different? We're just going to first Kanye. I know. But it's kind of interesting. And, anyway, he was on Jimmy and Kimmel, and I think I mentioned this week too. It said, would you consider, Jimmy Kimmel asked him, would you consider yourself to be a Christian music artist now? Kimmel asked, and Kanye replied, I'm just a Christian everything. That's beautiful, because that's what it means to live out this faith. It's, he is an artist. Whether you like his music or not, he's got talent, and he lives that out. And some of you are going to be, a teacher. You're going to be a supervisor. You're a Christian that. Whatever that is. And what that means, it doesn't mean you have to constantly, I've had friends who are annoying as all get out because they don't do their job. They just try to talk to you about, God, which is great. Love God. But, please do your work. That's not a good Christian. It's like if you're supposed to be working, work. But, the way you do your job, the way you have conversations with people outside of that should be changed by who we serve. And so, we're a Christian everything, and we need to be intentional about how we live. I'm going to skip that part. Here's the thing. All Christians struggle. John Piper said, and I'm not a big Piper fan, but I like some of his stuff. There's a book coming in January of 2021 where he says, see, I'm in the know, man. I know this is coming. Actually, a guy I follow on Twitter said this. But he said, if you find the Christian life to be untroubled and without struggle and without warfare against your own sin, you may not be living the Christian life. It doesn't mean we don't have success in fighting off the sin, but the truth is there's always this tension and there's always this stuff warring, and stuff always kind of creeps in, right? You're not paying attention. It's like deer hunting. You're not paying attention, and suddenly it's there. Maybe not like that at all. But sometimes, we like to hold on to sin in the world, right? Now, I posted yesterday. Everybody see my picture of my little friend? Yeah. Some of you didn't. The ones going, ooh, oh my gosh, they're the ones that saw it. I found a nice, maybe 4.5-inch wolf spider when I was cleaning off the carport while I was working the trees. And it was like, it would not let go of the shirt too. So it was like, I'm like trying, like, and I don't squish spiders, especially wolf spiders. They're beautiful, right? Some of you are like, get that tarantula away from me. I'm never going to go buy a tree from you. I'm never going to your house. You know, some of y'all have like, pit bulls or something that guard your house. I have spiders throughout my entire house. And, warning, spider, no. But a lot of us are freaked out slightly by spiders. Who's freaked out, honestly? Who's like, I love spiders? Okay. A couple of weirdos, yes, my people. I don't like them in the house, but I like them out the house. But, think about it this way. Now, most of us would kind of freak out with a spider. Most of us probably would not have brought it someplace safe to live, right? But they have jobs, they're cool. Most of us probably would not have brought it in the house, right? Anyone going to bring it in the house? Even those of you who love it are like, no, I don't think so. I kept one as a pet for a while. It was cool. We'd feed it flies. But, here's the thing. You wouldn't take hundreds of them, throw them in your bed, and pull the covers up, right? So, let that image sit in. But that's what we do with sin. We take stuff that's harmful and icky. Truth is, a lot of us, we really don't see sin that way. And we welcome it in, and we snuggle up with it. You're not going to snuggle up with a spider. Don't snuggle up with sin. And there's all this worldliness, this stuff that comes in. And sometimes the sin in the world is obvious. Now, yesterday was Friday. Thursday? Anyway, I was at the light. This is a public service announcement for those of you who drive. The windows that when you're sitting in your car are not fully tinted in a way that I cannot see in. So there was a gentleman really trying to go after some buried treasure. And I'm just like, this is awkward. It's not the first time it's happened, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, do I honk? Do I wave? Do I say something? I don't. And it was obvious. He was either oblivious or doesn't care, or thought he had see-through tint that couldn't see through. But sometimes sin is obvious. There's stuff that it's obviously going on. We know what's happening there. You need to stop. That's how you get rhinoviruses and things. But sometimes, sin is a little more hidden, right? It's, as some of you know, we've been working on this project at the house, and it's been complicated. I've had to, I'm do-it-yourself, which means I didn't have the money to pay for the whole thing to have someone else do it. And I've been learning all kinds of stuff, and Bob's been helping me, and I had to, do something, braced wall panels and everything, and so I had to, basically I have to dig out underneath a certain section of the house. I have to then pour concrete so that I can brace something into it so that it's, it has to be 24 inches below, the ground and all this stuff, okay? So those of you who don't know construction, that's what I got to do. So I'm in there. I finally got the permit, and I'm talking to the guy, and there's like lists of inspections when you're building or working on something, and there's this, and I was making sure I understood the inspections, and I get to the footers, which is that's what that's called. I get to the inspection, and I'm like, all right, he's like, yeah, when you get the holes dug, call us out. I'm like, oh, then do I call you when they're poured? And he said, no. I'm like, so I have to dig them back up when you, he's like, nope. I'm like, so you just assume that I'm not an idiot. Dig the footer and then just fill it back in with dirt. He's like, yep, we kind of assume that. I was like, you should not assume that with me. No, I'm going to pour it right. But point being, that would not be an obvious sin, because if he came over and it would look like I built the thing right and I could fake it, but it really wouldn't make it, right? Sometimes sin in our world is hidden because it's stuff that we're good at hiding. Now, Christians, we're good at being fake sometimes, right? Like there's sin and worldliness. We're like, oh, don't get trapped in that. But then we're like over here with our spiders under our covers on our own. Because we like to hide those things. And so we have to be careful that you're entitled to a private life, but not a secret life. And so we need to be careful what we bring into our world. Ultimately, what is worldliness? It's when we focus on the wrong stuff. And it can even be stuff that's not bad. We tend to think the good things that God gave us, and we make them into God things, right? Money, money is the root of all evil. Bad translation. Better translation. The love of money is the root of all evil. Because money is, it's neutral. It's good. I'm praying God's blessing over all of you so you have lots of money. And then I'm praying you tithe back in the name of Jesus. but money's not bad. And I've had some friends who are really good at making it. I'm not. But money's not bad, but the love of money is. And there's all kinds of gifts that God's given us, things like sex, but we take it out of the context it's supposed to be. And all these things are good things, but we can often make them into the gods of us. And there's power and position in the world. Some of you, I'm praying you'll be the supervisors. I'm praying you'll own companies. I'm praying you'll move up the ladder. But is it all about you being on top? Or do you have your position to serve other people? Do you have your position to be a witness to how Christ would be a manager? The truth is, one of the things I think it's just all that stuff that really detracts us from our true purpose in Christ. When we're off track, we make the wrong decisions because instead of asking, what will please me, or what do I want? We should be asking, how can I better serve God's purposes in the way I'm living? Hope this analogy works. I was thinking about raising kids, and it's funny raising kids. There's the temptation to just raise them like everyone else raises kids, right? Like, you may not think it, but you kind of like you raise your kids like your neighbors are raising kids, like your friends are raising kids, like, or maybe how you were raised. We always want to raise kids our way, so we make them walk uphill to school in the snow, 10 miles every day. Or maybe for some of us, it's like you want to raise them differently than you were raised. Because you just got this whole list of things that, I'm not going to do that, not going to do that. Although some of them become, that's what my dad did, I did that, when you get a little later, older. But here's the thing, for us, when we're raising our kids, we're thinking, what does God have in store for them? And so I'm not like raising my son. My son, he plays football and wrestles, I played football and wrestled. It's just genetic. My dad played football. My grandfather played football. We just all are a bunch of concussion-loving people. It doesn't affect me at all. It doesn't affect me at all. It doesn't affect me at all. What? Oh, sorry. No. But, it's like I don't raise my kids to kind of go, okay, how can they be like me? But I'm thinking, when I raise my kids, how am I raising them to be like Christ? How am I raising them to fulfill that? And then I'm telling my kids, hey, because it's hard. You get 18 and they're like, choose a job for the rest of your life. Seriously, at 18, is anyone doing what they thought they were going to be doing at 18? Okay. One person. That's awesome. Tawana's awesome. But a lot of us are a little kind of still trying to figure some things out. But, part of what it means for my kids is like when I'm raising kids is going, hey, what does God have for them? And don't get caught up in the world. Don't get caught up in just making money. But if God's calling you to make money, make money. Don't get caught up in having a nice car. Now it's okay to have a nice car, but you're teaching them and training them because I want them to fully live out who God's called them to be. And it's the same with us. It's not about how much money I make. It's not about the things I have. It's not about this world, but ultimately our focus needs to be on the next. We did this, we did a video, Francis Chan, I've talked about it a little bit. We even did little ropes for a while. He does this thing in the video, and he does it better than me, and somebody will remember to post it, or maybe post it from the Facebook page later. He does this thing, he did it with computer paper originally, he said, which kind of makes me laugh because you remember the dot matrix paper that was all hooked together? Some of you have no idea what I mean. The rest of you, So you have no idea, do you? You're like, it's crazy. There's probably not even a YouTube video of dot make. Does they still make that? I remember the first time I got paper, and I'm like, well, this won't go in a computer. It's not connected together. They don't do that anymore. But anyway, he had this rope, and it's kind of like this. Its giant rope extends all across, the whole room and everything. He said, kind of picture this rope extending forever, because we're eternal. We're made to be eternal, and so we're going to exist forever. And then he made like this little part of the thing red, and that's why if you get one of the red ropes, and we probably still have some more. I have 2 in my car, so someone can steal one from my car, because people kept taking them or like wanting one, so I just kind of ended up with 2 in my car because I kept giving another one away, and that way I had an extra. But, but really, it was like long rope. Picture a rope wrapping all around this church a bunch of times, going on forever. But our life it's small, right? Man, I was talking to somebody, it's actually your brother, but I was talking to Andrew, and, it's like, man, once you get out of high school, man, things start going faster, right? Like, you remember you're like first grade, it takes forever. Like, you're like, 2 days till Christmas, how will I ever survive? Now you're like, 2 days till Christmas, how will I ever survive? Because you got to get everything done. But, time just kind of goes faster and faster. And, I'm blinking, and last week I had a birthday. Or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know when 2 weeks ago? I don't even know. That's how fast time goes by for me. It was yesterday, right? It was today. It was this morning. No. But, time flies by quickly. And really, in the blink of eternity, I love history. I love studying ancient cultures and things. And it's like thousands and thousands of years have gone by. It's just been in the blink of the eye, versus all of existence. And really, our lives, when you watch the Francis video, it's kind of like this is the red. And so we get so focused on the red. We're like, oh, I hope I can, work really hard in this part so I can get to the here, and I'm going to live really well for this little bit of thing. And if I work really hard here, I can have a really nice car for this little part. But there's all this eternity. And we get so focused, and it's easy to, because you can start off on the right focus and then end up on the wrong focus. We get focused on this world because it's where we live. We have to deal with it every day. And again, it's not bad stuff. Love your family, love your kids, serve the people at work, but our focus is not on the red, our focus is on the white, and how we live now determines the rest of that. And so there's always, this temptation to live for the red, but we have to continually strive for the white, strive for God's purposes, see things through His eyes and the way He would have us live. As the worship team comes back to play, I want to remind you, we have connection cards each week. You can fill one out, or you can not fill one out if you want. But if you would love to pray for